All right. Good morning, everybody. If you don't know me by now, my name is Karen McCabe, and I'm the training specialist for the state of Delaware, as well as the training coordinator for Newcastle County, as well as Kent County. I've seen my share of Dover for the last month or so, more so than in the 35 years I've lived here in Delaware. Anyhow, I'm glad you're joining me this morning so that we can talk about, give you an overview for returning counselor training and the certification process. Just a couple of navigational aspects. If you want to be able to see the slides in their full format, there are two options within Google Meet that you can use. Towards the bottom of the slide screen, you'll see an arrow that's pointing in two directions. And if you toggle your mouse over the arrow and click on it, it will enter a full screen mode. So that's one way to get the screen size larger. Secondly, below the little emojis, the toolbar that has your microphone, your camera, and such, there's three little dots. If you click on the three dots, there's an option for adjust view. Then you would select spotlight, and that too will get rid of the external forces that you don't need to see. And so hopefully I want you to be able to see the slides very clearly. If you have during the presentation, I will be stopping periodically to answer any questions. You can feel free to put your question or a comment in the chat box, which is on the bottom right, to the right of the multi-headed people. You can also raise your hand. That is the icon, the little hand icon in the middle of the bottom middle of the screen. And so that is your navigation tips for today. So I'm going to take myself off camera so that I can concentrate on what I'm going to be saying. So here goes, everybody. So today's program, or today's meeting, we're going to take a brief look at 2024, just a quick review of some statistics from the last tax season and see what the numbers are and hopefully will be this coming year. We'll go through the training schedule. We've got the next 6 weeks or so to get everybody trained and certified. We'll also touch on training resources. One of the things that I have learned since taking on this role is there's a tremendous amount of resources that the National Tax Training Committee, AARP, have made available to us. It can be overwhelming. And so hopefully I'll kind of distill it into, hey, if you have this one document, you're going to be in very good shape. We will get into the certification requirements. As you all are returning counselors, you probably know them by now, but there have been a few changes, a new requirement, and also a change in how we're going to handle how you communicate when you've completed certain elements of the certification process. We'll then touch on our agenda for returning counselor training, which again will be held this year at Widener University, the Delaware Law School portion up on 202. And I'm really excited about this agenda that we put a lot of thought into making it a program geared towards counselors with experience, whether it's you just finished your first tax season or you finished your 20th tax season. We've got good stuff planned for you, and so I'm anxious to share that with you. And then any lingering questions from there we will hit on. So getting right into statistics. So this is a screenshot of our tax return preparation from last year, the numbers for Newcastle County, Wilmington, the two districts combined. And it's, I think it goes pretty much in order of the most tax returns prepared. And what we had as a district, 12% increase 2025 versus 2024. Just to put some things into perspective, for the entire state of Delaware, we prepared 6,660 tax returns. And so in our district, we're talking 2,800 returns. Sussex County did 3,239 returns. And just a little fun fact, out of the 3,239 returns done in Sussex County, 1,100 of them, pretty much 1/3, were done at one location, which is St. Anne's Church. I believe they do taxes every day of the week. So that is a pretty happening place. And in Sussex County, they have 10 sites. We have, I think, 12 or 13. And so again, just interesting, and the numbers show just the federally accepted returns. If you've been doing your own statistics on looking them up, this does not include any state returns we've done. The statistics may be, they're close enough for comparison purposes. So if we break down by filing status, you see that 68% of our taxpayers file as individuals, 25% married filing joint. What I found interesting, again, and it's not on here, 68% of our filers are over 60 years old. Down in Sussex, only 55% of their filers are over 60 years old. Again, I thought just a fun fact I thought was interesting. And just to round out, Kent County, they have 4 sites and they did about 625 returns last year. So Sussex and Newcastle, definitely the workhorses for the state. And Kent County, they would love to open more sites, but resources are a little bit of a problem for them. So in terms of the training objectives and our approach this year, basically, we've always approached it, especially for experienced counselors, is we want to get you certified. And that's the primary focus. At the same time, most of us have not thought about taxes for the last 8 months. Probably been a very wonderful 8 months for you, not thinking about taxes. And so we want to shake off the cobwebs, but we also want to enhance your tax expertise. There's a lot of experience on this call, a lot of experience with our tax counselors here in Newcastle County. And so we want to approach training of returning counselors as being something that elevates your expertise, makes you more comfortable and knowledgeable dealing with the less common topics that you run into. I mentioned that probably 85% of the returns we do are very simple standard returns. But it's that 15% that we want our experienced volunteers to be able to handle. Ultimately, our goal is for all of us to prepare accurate tax returns for the taxpayers who utilize our service. And I'll be the first to admit, I've been doing this, I'll be going into my 4th tax season. And also, there are a couple of people on your phones. If you could mute your phone, I would appreciate it. Getting a little feedback on that. Thank you. Anyhow, so in my experience preparing tax returns, sometimes I'll learn something new that I'll think back to, I had that situation come up either this tax season or last tax season, and I realized I did it wrong. And in the end, most of the time, some of these errors wouldn't have made any difference with the taxpayers we typically deal with. But still, if we can elevate our expertise and just be able to recognize some of these less common areas, our taxpayers certainly will be better off. So that's our approach to training. So in terms of the training schedule, and you've seen various iterations of this before, at least I hope you have. But we already started new counselor training this past Monday. We've got our second session tomorrow. We've got, I believe, 18 to 20 new counselors, looking very good. They survived their first day of setting up all their logins and passwords. You all can probably think back to that, and it's smooth sailing from there. But for you guys, for returning counselors, we have our meeting today. And then a week from today, about at the same time, we're doing a statewide Google Meet. And the topic is to begin the conversation on the federal tax law changes, as well as the changes in tax slayer. I was on a webinar last Thursday that went into the tax law changes. That webinar lasted 2 hours, a ton of questions, a lot of questions that the folks at the NTTC still didn't have answers to. You know, as people are still trying to figure out forms and the tax law and putting it into tax slayer. But what we want to do next week is at least start sharing the information with you, the key changes in the tax laws, such as reporting of tip income as a deduction, overtime, the enhanced senior deduction, some of the key areas that we'll probably run into at our sites. So we'll start that conversation next Wednesday. We decided to do it statewide first because we wanted to be a consistently delivered message to everyone. And then we will be scheduling this topic again when we're at Widener in January. The other thing that's new that you'll see on this schedule is what I call office hours. And I've got them scheduled 3 Saturdays between now and the certification deadline. And all that is the option of, hey, I'll be sitting here in my home office from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And if you're working on your proficiency exercises, you're working on the advanced test, you get stuck on something, feel free to just hop into the Google Meet and ask your question. Hopefully I'll have an answer. I'll be able to give you some direction and you can hop on out. And so that's all that is just having somebody available to answer any questions you have, so that if you're, there, you've got good momentum going, and I don't want to hold up that momentum. So it's something I'm trying, and we'll see how it works. And if you just want to come on and say hello, that's okay too. So that's all you've got going for December. Getting into January, obviously that first week in January is very busy for you all, and the training this year is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday in that first week in January. All of the training for the returning counselors, what you see in that salmon color, is going to be at Widener University's Delaware Law School on 202. And if you came to the training last year, that's where it was. One thing I also want to point out, I keep the Google Meet link. Every virtual meeting we have, and if we need to go virtual because of the weather like we had to last year, we're using the same Google Meeting link. Took me about a month to figure that out, but I did, and I'm happy for that. And we'll get into what we're going to discuss later on in this presentation. You see the other 2 Saturday office hours, the 10th and the 17th, because lo and behold, certification deadline highlighted for you is Wednesday, January 21st. Will Julie and I love for you to get your certification done prior to that? Yes, please. And so we'll do everything in our power to help you to get done well before the deadline. But know that the 21st, reason being that there is a lag between when we get you set up having passed certification in the portal and AARP processing that. So we want to make sure that everybody's ready to go come February 1st, and that's why the deadline's on the 21st. You'll notice also that same week, we've got Delaware State Tax Return Training on Tuesday the 20th. That is just if you do not attend the Returning Counselor Workshop. We will be covering Delaware Tax Return Training in our classroom training program. And I'll explain why when we get into the Delaware agenda later. The purpose of the webinar on the 20th is if you are unable to make the live training, you want to just hear all about it again. And plus, it's set up for our friends from Pennsylvania and Maryland if they want to refresh on Delaware taxes. That's what that's all about. The Maryland State Tax Return Training presentation is scheduled, as you'll see, on the 22nd. I do not have the date yet for Pennsylvania, and once I do, it will be populated in the calendar. Does anybody have any questions about the scheduling? Okay, I must be doing a darn good job. Okay, let's get into resources. This document, hopefully you've seen it before, the training resource links put out by the National Tax Training Committee. This is your key to find anything and everything having to do with training and certification. And also, if you need to look at the useful tax prep links, that sheet, there's a link to it as well on this page. The one thing I want to point out as you're looking at this sheet, the NTTC workbook, you all received a copy or should have received a copy at your home of this year's NTTC workbook with the exercises in them. The online version of the NTTC workbook has an additional 80 pages to it. That workbook is geared, or the 80 pages in the online version covers a lot of less common tax topics. And the reason the NTTC opted to do it both ways was because they didn't necessarily want to overwhelm a new counselor by putting all of these less common topics in the hard copy of the workbook. And plus, it allows the online version, if they need to make any changes due to late changes in the tax law or whatever the case may be, they can make the changes online, and people can still continue the certification process using their hard copy. And so when you think of resources for less common topics, that last 80 pages or so of the NTTC workbook is a great place to look for such things as my favorite, the Medicaid waiver payment, and K-1s. There's some more involved tax returns. If you want to really challenge yourself, take a look at the Evans-Bryant tax return. I've been working on that for quite a while because it has just about everything you can think of in a tax return. And so if you're looking for a challenge, I strongly recommend that. But you can only find the Evans-Bryant tax return information in the online version of the NTTC workbook. Another thing I want to point out, those of you who maybe just completed your first tax season, and so things are still a little fuzzy. Number one, you are welcome to come to new counselor training. If you're interested, I can send you the agenda. Take a look, and if there's a topic you see on a given day that you'd like to get some additional help with or hear about it all over again, join us at Hockessin Library. Just drop me an email and I'll send you the agenda. But another option to that is go to the training videos and PowerPoints that you see here on the page. And basically, these videos are PowerPoints that we use in our training that the NTTC has done voiceover. So if I'm giving a classroom presentation on capital gains and losses, and maybe I wasn't so clear, then you can watch the video and hear from another presenter giving, different approach to the knowledge. And so take a look at that if you've never been aware that these videos exist. They are very, very good. You also have the links to take the IRS certification tests, links to get into Practice Lab. So that's why I love this document, because it is your main point. It's kind of the spoke or the hub of the wheel to lead you to every place you need to go as it relates to training and certification. The other key resource for you, because the prior page, the training resource links, was geared towards federal tax return prep. Well, we have our Delaware microsite. That is the de1.taxaide.aarpfoundation.org. That is a site where we're able to create and have in one place Delaware specific resources to help you prepare accurate Delaware tax returns. If you've not visited this site in a while, or maybe you weren't aware that this site existed, I encourage you, take a look-see. You will go to the volunteer login up here in the top right. The password is Counselor Help, all one word, capital C, capital H, and that will get you into the volunteer section. One of the tabs in that section is the training resources. And so as you scroll through the page, you see up at the top, we've got what's in this section: training schedules, certification requirements, etc. A link to the previous document I just showed you, the training resources link, is right there as well. Then as you scroll down, the training schedules, and we've got it set up by county. And so the latest training schedule, if you've been reading all of the emails I've been sending for the last month or so, or you've hopefully seen them sent by your local coordinator, the schedule has changed on occasion. I think we made the final change, Julie and I, last night about 7:30. And so hopefully the schedule is set, but so you can access the schedule there on this new counselor's pathway to certification. And so you see the training schedule. There is a section on training requirements. I'm going to get into the training requirements and this cheat sheet in a minute, but this is all on the Delaware microsite. You can download this sheet just by clicking on the link here. Also, when we get talking about the Delaware certification test, you will click on this link and that will take you to the online test. So everything, let's see what else is there. And then finally, this is one of my favorite parts, in the references tab on the Delaware microsite, is we have Delaware specific references. I'm highlighting the Delaware TaxSlayer user guide for tax year 25. This was a labor of love that I started working on over the summer, and with the help of quite a few people on this site, on this call, where I won't say the user guide is perfect just yet, but it's getting there. And if you think back to last or prior years' user guides, the focus was primarily on specific issues you needed to look at for Delaware. What we did with the user guide was really start from square one. How, what filing status are you, and how do you create a Delaware tax return and TaxSlayer, all the way through. So it's a very comprehensive guide, and I encourage you to take a look at it. John Mercante, did you have a question?
Yeah. Did I hear you mention Delaware certification test?
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Okay.
That's new? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can thank me later or not.
Okay.
Okay, and look at this list: Delaware tax year itemized deductions worksheet. This is a cheat sheet. I don't know where I got it, but I use it because we take the not only the federal standard deductions, but the sheet also includes the Delaware standard deduction amounts for all the different filing statuses. And the thing I like about that, I always had that sheet in front of me at my Chromebook because I could do a quick mental calculation based on the amount of deductions the taxpayer was showing me. Okay, are they eligible to itemize at the Delaware level? So it's a nice little cheat sheet that I encourage you to take a look at. Got the tax exempt interest calculator, preparing multi-state returns. So just a lot of Delaware specific references that are here on the Delaware microsite. Oops. Okay. And then, okay. Any questions before I go forward onto the certification? Any questions on resources? Excellent. Wake up, everybody. Okay, let's go on to certification requirements. So what we did this year, and it was the request of many of you when you did your survey last year, is, please give me a one-stop shop. Tell me what I need to do for certification. So this is, we hope we accomplished that with this handy sheet that you can download from the Delaware microsite, or I think I've sent the links out before, and if not, I will. But the requirements are split out by sort of who's needing the requirements. So you've got the AARP portal, the IRS Link and Learn, the proficiency exercises in the workbook, and then any state training. And of course, I'm highlighting the counselor's role since we're talking on this call with experienced counselors. One thing to make note of, and you may not be able to read it right now, but there are footnotes that, as you see up at the top, a little one here with the policy and procedures training and technology and security through the portal. The footnote says that, and it's a reminder, there's a test out option, that you don't have to watch the 20-minute recordings, you can test out. And so just be sure to read the footnotes so that everything makes sense. And I'm going to break down each of these categories next. So first is the AARP portal certification. I think just went into the portal this morning, and quite a few of you have gotten started with the 2 courses that counselors are required to take, and that's the policy and procedures training and the technology and security training. This is what it should look like when you go into your volunteer dashboard. Click on the training tab, and it will show you what courses have been assigned to you. And this should be automatic, that you should see that 2 courses have been assigned to you. For local coordinators or shift coordinators, you have a 3rd course that you have to take a look at. And once you either test out or watch the course, and I got to say, I watched all 3 courses this time around, and the policies and procedures, technology and security, kind of a good reminder that if you tested out last year, maybe take a look at it, because sometimes, again, get some of the cobwebs out and be reminded of some of the things we should be doing at our sites and should be aware of from a privacy and security standpoint. Once you complete the courses, you do not have to do anything. You do not have to email your LC. You do not have to email Julie or myself. Once you complete the courses, it's automatically updated in the portal and we see it. So that hopefully saves you from that email. So that's the AARP portion of certification. Easy peasy. Let's move on to the Link and Learn. This is through the IRS certification. You all should, well, the IRS 6744 workbook this year, because of cost issues, the IRS did not want to mail them out to every active counselor. So what was done instead is workbooks, the 6744 workbooks were mailed to the local coordinators based on how many folks they had at their locations. And it was up to the local coordinators to get them to you. If you still do not have a workbook, first contact your local coordinator. If they're all out, contact me. I still have some on hand. But that's, if you're looking for it, I didn't receive it, your LC has it. But also the workbook is available online as well, in a pinch. This is the what you would see when you sign into your Lincoln Learn account. The sign-in credentials are exactly the same as what you used last year. If you don't recall what you used last year, you may have to go through resetting your password. Now, one thing, and hopefully you all got an email from me or through your local coordinator last Friday, asking that you not go into the Lincoln Learn site just yet. It is live. Sometimes they're taking down, but they're in the process of testing, and they just want people to not go in unless you have to. For example, I needed to complete my certification so that I could be certified to train on tax year 25. If you are not involved in the instructing process, please hold off going into Lincoln Learn until you get notified either from me or from the Tax-Aide folks. They're hoping that December 15th, next week, is when it will be open and available. But I would say go ahead and do the tests in your workbook. Just kind of circle the answers in the workbook. And then once the online version is available, you just have to transfer those answers to the online version and you should be good to go. If you prefer, if this, you're a little nervous about taking the test because you have to pass with 80% the advanced test, and so you're taking the volunteer standards of conduct, the intake interview, and then the advanced course test. The advanced course test, as you will recall, has some scenarios where you have to go into practice lab and prepare a tax return, and then others, they just give you information. You do a little research through the 4012 manual or through the 4491 manual, and to get your answers. If you would like a second set of eyes to take a look at your answers before entering them in, you can send them to myself. I was going to say send them to Karen or Julie. You can send them to me or to Julie, and we'll give you a little feedback and say, hey, maybe you'll want to look up what the parameters are for the health savings account deduction, or the health savings account contribution, let's say. And we'll give you that feedback and help you to get through the test. If you decide you want to just go ahead and have at it first crack and you get more than 7 incorrect answers, and as a result have to take the retest, please definitely reach out to Julie or myself before you submit the retest answers. Our goal is to get you through the certification process. Once you get through your 3 tests, you then have to digitally sign the Form 13615, your Volunteer Standards of Conduct Agreement. It's all done online. You can digitally sign it and date it. When you do that, please download the form to your computer. And if your last name begins with A through L, please email the form to Julie. If your last name begins M through Z, you can email your form to me. There's no need to send it to your local coordinator. Just send it directly to Julie or myself. We're the ones that are kind of keeping all of the certification records together.
Okay. Good.
Oh, by the way, in case you didn't get it from the last slide, please do not go to the online link and learn until you receive notification. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, moving right along. So now let's go to the next section of the certification process. I believe this is one of everybody's favorites, the proficiency exercises. Last year, there was something new. There was a new direction from the NTTC as far as the proficiency exercises and submitting them to someone, last year was either to Alan Rosenberg or myself, and just so that we knew that they were completed. This year, while we strongly encourage you to do practice and complete all 4 proficiency exercises, we are asking that only the Hansen and Miller exercises are the ones we would like for you to send. And in this case, if your last name begins A through L, send your PDF returns to Julie. M through Z, send your PDF returns to me. All of the workbook exercises, with the exception of the proficiency problems, the 4 proficiency problems, the answers to those exercises, the answer sheet is actually on that training resources links sheet that I showed you previously in the NTTC workbook section. Once you submit your 2 proficiency exercises to Julie or myself, we will then send you the answers to all 4 of the proficiency exercises. We will also be going through the Hansen and Miller exercises during our training in January, just like we did last year, because by that time, hopefully you will have completed those exercises. We can go over some areas that were especially challenging to people. So hopefully you think that's a fair compromise, that you don't, as much as I'd love for you to do all 4, you're not required to do all 4. Moving right along, Delaware State Certification Test. Say what? A certification test? What are you telling me? Here's the thing, everybody. I don't know about you, but I find Delaware tax returns somewhat challenging at times. And it took me at least a couple of tax seasons to figure out, and only this past tax season, to finally, once and for all, understand how to deal with tax-exempt interest or tax-exempt dividends on a Delaware return. And while sometimes making that mistake may not make any difference with our taxpayers, it still confused the heck out of me. And finally, I understand what it is. But there's no reason why preparing a Delaware tax return is just as important as preparing a federal return. And so why shouldn't we test your knowledge? And so that's what we're doing. But I will tell you, this test is pretty easy. It's an online test. You don't have to prepare any tax returns. All of the answers can be found in the new and improved Delaware Tax Layer User Guide. There are 19 questions, mostly multiple choice, mostly true, false. Most are worth 1 point. There are a few that are worth 2 points, and you have to earn 18 points to pass. I think you'll like it because I believe it's a fair test of your knowledge and a reminder, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And you have to do this type of testing to say, oh gosh, I didn't realize I was supposed to put in savings bond interest on the federal side so that it will carry over to the Delaware side. Just, simple things like that. And so that's all that we did for for Delaware certification. We have also created, to help you get more comfortable with preparing Delaware tax returns, I've created Delaware specific scenarios for many of the exercise problems in the NTTC workbook. So if you're doing those practice problems on the federal side for, say, a core almond, here's a Delaware specific scenario that once the practice lab 2025 for Delaware comes online, you can do the Delaware portion of the return. You could also, if you really want to solidify your knowledge of preparing a Delaware tax return, you can prepare the return in the tax year 2024. And that way you see the Delaware screens and test things out over there. So many options to enhance your Delaware knowledge. Okay. I mentioned the user guide, and this is just the first half of what you can expect to see in the Delaware user guide. As I said, the old user guide almost went into just the top 10 scenarios you may encounter, where here we're starting residency requirements on determining married filing joint or married combined filing separate on Delaware, how to create a return, basic menus, additions to income, subtractions to income. It's a very comprehensive guide that we hope will really make it easier for you to do Delaware tax returns. And a quick shout out to Mike McKenna, who just in the last month or so, he's been really helpful in reviewing the user guide and asking me questions and making suggestions on, hey, this isn't clear. Maybe you should say it this way. And so it's been a huge help to me. I will also say, again, this is not 100% accurate as you're going through it. If you find that something is incorrectly stated or maybe something that we're missing out on, please drop me an email and we'll make the corrections to it. And then lastly, in terms of the Maryland, Pennsylvania training, you only need to attend or watch the recording if your site prepares Maryland and Pennsylvania returns. I think for the most part, most of us do, but many of the sites you probably don't get many Pennsylvania or Maryland returns. And so it may not be applicable to you. Yes, Tom. Unmute your mic.
I just did. Just to be clear, though, that's resident Maryland and Pennsylvania returns, correct?
No, actually, no.
Is it both?
Go ahead.
Is it both resident and non-resident?
It is going to cover both resident and non-resident.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Carol, go ahead.
Is there any chance that they will bring in the training for New Jersey? Because we've come across that a couple of times at our site.
The short answer is no. And I think, and the reason being that New Jersey tax returns, from what I understand, are a little difficult to do. They have some subtle nuances, and I'll admit it, at my site, Bear Library, we've done a couple, but technically we are not certified and shouldn't be. And there is a program within Tax-Aide, it's STAP, State Tax Assistance Program. I think that's what it stands for. And what the STAP is designed to do, and there's a whole process, is if you run into where you need a New Jersey tax return done, rather than turning the taxpayer away, you can do the federal and Delaware portion and then solicit from the STAP people in New Jersey. And now that I'm saying that, if memory serves me, STAP New Jersey is not participating. Thank you, Steve. Yep. New Jersey isn't participating in STAP. So you know what? Tell your taxpayers, sorry, they're out of luck. But no, I asked the question on last year's survey if there was an interest in adding New Jersey training, and the feedback was not something that I needed to deal with at this point in time. And so, if it becomes an issue, I would think it's few and far between, and we're just unable to help them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, let me just check the chat box if anything's there. Oh, thank you, Steve. Okay, got it. Beautiful. Moving right along. Yes, go ahead, Sylvia. Unmute your microphone. Sylvia, there's a little microphone icon. You need to click on it to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. I was just wondering if any consideration has been given for the training at Widener to be hybrid, and in case you can't make it, that you can log in virtually, either on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever.
Good question. And I think that the short answer is, from a technological standpoint, and I have been involved in training. In fact, I went to Minneapolis back in July and training for the training specialist role, and it was done virtually, and it just takes like camera and other equipment. So it's not been high on my priority list, and we'll take a look at it and see. It just becomes a little bit of a logistical challenge. But we'll definitely take a look at it. Mary Ann, go ahead.
Is the Delaware training guide that you just showed in the previous slide available printed or only online?
Unfortunately, Mary Ann, I get zero budget to print anything.
Okay.
And my poor printer has been, in trouble. But so the short answer is no, but let me give that some thought and see how we may have maybe one per site hard copy at the very least, or we'll do a presentation, or excuse me, I'll ask people, how many people want a hard copy, and if all 80 here in Newcastle County say they do, then we have a little bit of a problem. But if it's just a handful, I'll see what I can do. So
Well,
thanks for the question.
Maybe one per site or something.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I will agree to that. I will provide one hard copy per site.
How many pages is it? Do you know?
It's 52 maybe. So on double-sided, it'll be 26 pages.
Okay. So
Okay.
it is available online and the link to it is available to us.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. And Janine, what happens if you have to miss just a morning of training? How do you make it up? So if for whatever reason you miss on the returning counselor training, you will have the agenda. Everything we will be covering is somewhere in the various training tools. And even some will be available by video. Now, the fact that I just said that, I don't want to discourage you from not attending. It will be more valuable for you to attend, and I will explain why. Let me get into the training schedule.
Yeah, sorry, I'm babysitting in the morning.
Yeah, no, I understand, and through my explanation over the next several minutes, it should become apparent, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about classroom training at Widener. As I mentioned at the outset, we want to make this training more engaging for returning counselors and more interesting, and to just enhance your knowledge base. So the agenda is pretty much set, but I didn't want to share the exact agenda here just in case we change our minds. But I wanted to share with you some of the topics that will be part of the agenda. So getting to know your resources a little bit more. As I mentioned, there's a ton of resources out there. For example, the self-study guide. Chances are you've never even looked at it. I never knew it existed until maybe 4 months ago, because I'm not doing self-study. I do the NTTC workbook. But in that self-study guide, they've got a whole section, on less common tax topics with exercises and activities.
Technology's great. I'm able to go to a meeting, my training meeting, and I don't even have to be there.
Yeah, but could you
Where's
mute
the
your
chicken in here
microphone,
now?
whoever this is? I'm glad you like it, but mute your microphone.
I will.
Okay. So anyhow, as I was saying, so there are a lot of resources. We'll go over, where those resources are. We'll also talk about.
Hi, I'm Tom McBride,
Hi, Tom.
and Jim Pizzuto is right behind me.
Sounds good.
All right.
You guys are good to go.
Thank you.
Tom McBride, can you mute your phone, please? Okay, so we'll also take a deeper dive into tax law and tax layer changes. We start out next week at the webinar, but then in classroom, we'll have probably more information, look at the worksheets. We'll do some practice exercises using the worksheets with these with the tax law changes. Take a deeper dive into the intake interview process. If you'll recall, last year we had new forms and there was a new procedure that the right side was filled out by the counselor and such. And what we found, it was a ton of inconsistency from one site to the next, and this was common across the country. And so we'll try to begin standardizing the interview intake process. Get into a little bit of the Colorado toolkit. It's not just for the dependency qualifications or the pension and annuity. There's some other nice tools that may come in handy. And what will be one of my favorite activities, is it in scope or out of scope? Yeah, the scope manual, I'll admit I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, and maybe I should. And so we're going to have a fun little activity for that. We'll get into, again, effective quality reviews. We did that topic last year, and so it's always good to revisit, because especially some of you may not have done quality reviews last year, or it was your first year doing quality reviews. We want to kind of keep you in good habits. Moving on, we're going to spend quite a bit of time undertaking less common advanced tax topics, such as lump sum Social Security. You may have run into that in the past, but due to a change in the tax law from the Biden administration, we may be seeing more this coming tax season. So there's a whole worksheet on that. There's actually a video already up on what this is all about. The railroad pension forms, self-employment health insurance, the pension public safety officer exclusion, QCDs, capital gains losses, residential energy credit, the premium tax credits, education credits. These are some of the topics that the local coordinator and ourselves came up with this list. And the idea is we will share with you real life, real world examples, and we will kind of solve those examples and do what questions would you ask the taxpayer? How do you get more information? And so I'm really excited about this portion of the presentation. As I mentioned, we will get into Delaware state tax returns. With everybody being experienced, it's not going to be starting at the base, but it will get more into the elevated areas that we want our experienced professionals to be able to handle. We will go over a review of the proficiency exercises, Miller and Hansen. We'll talk about preparing amended returns. The final agenda will be sent in the next couple of weeks. Now, to the questions as far as, if you're going to miss portions of it, as you can see by the nature of the training, that this is really, it's enhancing your tax knowledge. And as I said, most of the material are already in existence. And so we're going to sort of point you in the right direction of where you can find this information. And I'll give you another great example. When I trained and for the last 3 years, I've relied exclusively on the 4012 as my go-to guidance for all things tax-aide related. And the 4012 is your volunteer resource guide. And it's very good because it marries tax law with TaxSlayer. So it talks about the tax law information, but it tells you where you can input it in the various TaxSlayer screens. Well, this manual that I had never really heard of, never paid attention to it, the 4491 is called the Volunteer Training Guide. Also on that resource links page I showed earlier. The 4491 is an awesome guide. It's 350 pages, and no, I'm not printing it for anybody. But it takes the same tax law that you see in the 4012, but it also it gives you specific examples. It asks you knowledge-based questions to, reinforce what you just read. It's very, very good. And so a lot of what we'll be covering, you can do the homework. And if you miss if you have to miss a day or a half a day, you'll be given a roadmap on where to learn it on your own. Okay. Yes, Steve. Oh, wait a minute. Will you touch on tax changes? Yes, that was the first thing that was mentioned, that we will talk about the tax law and TaxSlayer changes. That, in fact, I believe is the first on the agenda, and we've got an hour set aside for it. I'm sorry, what was that? Okay. Oh, one other thing I'm putting out a call for help. A lot of these tax topics, especially the previous one, the less common, I'll admit I'm not an expert on a lot of this. And so if anybody has any interest, damn it, oops, sorry. Okay, in these topics that you see listed, if anybody has any interest in helping out during the training that you want to take on, the residential energy credit, for example, please contact me. And when I come back on camera, you'll see my hands folded. Please, I need help. And plus, y'all don't want to hear from me for 3 days straight. So what are the next steps? Well, if you haven't already done so, now's as good a time as any to begin the certification activities. Remember, we've got office hours on Saturday the 20th and then the 10th and 17th. Drop on by, say hello, have a cup of coffee, and ask your question and get yourself through certification. If you haven't already done so, you may want to start waking up your Chromebook. I sent out an email through your local coordinator, I think as part of preparing for this meeting, that talks about, gave you links in waking up your Chromebook. By the way, the reason why I'm communicating directly or why I'm communicating through your local coordinator is I find that sometimes email servers don't like an email being sent to, 25 plus people. And so I felt it best that I will send my emails to the district coordinators. They in turn will forward to their teams. And so if you've not been the recipient of, I've sent about 4 emails that should have been passed on to you, and it may be an email issue, please contact your LC, confirm email addresses, check your spam folder. I want to make sure that you are receiving my communications. And if I get accused of over communicating, I'm okay with that. So wake up your Chromebook. And also, I don't know about you, but I don't really like using my Chromebook until tax season. I'd rather do all of my training and certification activities with my laptop at home or with my home laptop. I'm more comfortable with it. And there was an attachment to the email about this webinar that talked about how you can set up getting the key training tools or key documents from Tax-Aide and put it on your laptop, on your bookmarks bar, so you have easy access to getting everything done. You don't have to switch out a Chromebook to a Chromebook to your personal laptop. And so, and then last thing is to make sure you've got all the training dates on your calendar, virtual as well as otherwise. Whew, okay, I'm 1 minute over. Any questions? Thumbs up. This was a good presentation. You got the information you needed. And plus, I just want a little positive reinforcement. I've been working really hard on this. Thank you. Thank you. Mary Ann, go ahead.
I was just trying to figure out how to send you a thumbs up. I can't find it.
Oh, it's the little thumb right above where you see the camera and microphone. You see a heart emoji. You see a thumb emoji.
Yeah, I don't see it on mine.
Okay.
I'll look.
Well,
it's good.
Well, I'll take your verbal thumbs up. That works for me.
Thumbs up. Great job. Great
Thank
job,
you.
Karen.
Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you so much for joining me today. We will see you on our next webcast next week if you're available. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you at Widener, and we'll try to work in if we can do a hybrid approach, and we'll keep you posted. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Don't be a stranger.